everybody, welcome to the green room for Disrupt TV. And we've got, of course, our amazing producer, Elle, and of course, my friend, my co-host, and of course, co-founder of Disrupt TV. We introduce our guests in reverse order. One of our guests will be joining us in a little bit. That will be Shanda Gore. And of course, we've got Bruno here. Bruno, what are we talking about today? And just give me a quick overview of where we're coming in from and what we're talking about.
Sure. Well, I'm coming in from Ventura, California, on a road trip, business trip, and we're talking about data security. We're talking about AI and how data impacts AI and regulatory and all of these things that are sort of everybody's worrying about right now.
Hot topic, definitely. And Shanda is here. Shanda, we introduce ourselves by just saying a little bit of what you're talking about today and, of course, where you're coming in from. So welcome to the green room. We haven't gone live yet. This is the part where we just talk to you a little bit and get acquainted, and then we will kick it over to Elle in about a few seconds.
Okay, perfect. Well, I'm Dr. Shanda Gore, and I am now the author of the best-selling book, The PinLeader Path, and it's specifically about AI and engaging human and AI leadership for your organizational culture.
Very, very cool. Very timely topics this week. Thank you, Elle, for an amazing list. Let's go to Elle, and we're going to do the count, and we'll kick off the show. We're going to start with Bruno, and of course, Shanda, you'll be in the background. So ready? Let's go.
All right. 3, 2, 1.
Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining us on Disrupt TV. My name is Vala Afshar. I'm the Chief Evangelist at Salesforce and your co-host for the next hour. We welcome you to follow us on X at Disrupt TV Show. Send Ray, myself, our distinguished guests your questions, and we'll do our best to answer them live. It's my pleasure to introduce my co-host, Ray Wang. He's the CEO, founder of Constellation Research. He's the best-selling author of Everybody Wants to Rule the World. I see Ray on TV just about every day, Bloomberg, CNBC, Fox Business. He's, in my opinion, one of the top futurists to follow on X at RWANG0. Welcome, Mr. Wang, to Disrupt TV.
Hey, thanks a lot, Vala Afshar, the Chief Digital Evangelist for Salesforce. He's also the author of multiple books, including Boundless. This is a new mindset for unlimited business success and a #1 seller on Amazon. But executives around the world pay more attention to him than anyone else that I know, especially when he's giving keynotes, when he's putting insightful tweets, and he's publishing on ZDNet. But when he's not hosting or keynoting events, we see him on business TV outlets like Bloomberg, ABC, and of course, always writing something insightful and inspirational. We've got amazing guests, but it's not about us. It's about those guests. Who do we have to kick it off today?
We have such privilege to have incredible CEOs joining our show, and there's no exception. Bruno Kurtic, CEO, co-founder of Bedrock Security, and he was previously co-founder of Sumo Logic. Bruno's a highly accomplished entrepreneur with 30 years of experience in building and leading high-growth technology companies. As co-founder, president, and CEO of Bedrock Security, Bruno leads the company's vision and strategic direction. Before Bedrock, Bruno co-founded Sumo Logic, where he crafted the company's product and strategy, leading it from inception to a successful IPO. During his decade-long tenure as head of product, he established strategic partnerships with industry giants like AWS, Akamai, CrowdStrike, Google Cloud, positioning Sumo Logic as a market leader. Bruno's hands-on approach in go-to-market activities and securing multiple patents helped the company raise over $346 million in funding from top-tier investors, including Greylock Partners and Sequoia Capital. Welcome, Bruno, to Disrupt TV.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Hey, thanks for being on the show. Amazing exit on Sumo Logic. That was a 1.7 billion. You went public, then Francisco took you. Amazing work in a whole bunch of areas. But you're actually doing something different now. This is really talking about where data security and AI converge. And it's a topic that's top of mind in the boardrooms, top of mind at the front side of the executive suite. And more importantly, everyone is thinking about what this means, especially as we enter this age of AI, where AI is attacking, AI is defending, AI is playing a role in almost every part of our lives. So what are business leaders doing differently? How are they handling the shift? Because it's unlike anything they've seen before.
It's very much is. I think what's happening right now with the enterprise business is that everybody is really cognizant of the fact that AI is fundamental to differentiation, right? You get left behind if you don't implement AI strategies for the business, for your customers, for your employees, for efficiencies and all of those things. But they're also realizing that the fact that AI is a whole new business paradigm, whole new technology stack, that what's required is very careful governance. So we talk in the business about AI governance, and we also talk about the governance for AI, right? And so AI for governance, right? So to both, in order to successfully deliver AI capabilities, you have to govern those capabilities carefully so that you deliver the right capabilities without incurring too much risk.
Yeah.
Ray alluded to the rising level of boardroom conversations on both topics. And according to the most recent IDC survey of 419 CEOs, for the first time this year, it seems like AI and cybersecurity are co-number ones. 47% of the CEOs globally said these are top priorities. I think it was 47% for both. And it was the first time AI had risen to the level of cybersecurity in terms of importance for a CEO and the board. Is that what inspired you to start Bedrock Security? What was, I mean, again, as Ray mentioned, incredibly successful exit. And so I know you choose to work because you love the work. What inspired you to start Bedrock Security, and how has your vision evolved with all this predictive, generative, agentic, physical AI, all these concurrent waves of innovation across all these different categories of AI?
That's a great question. What we're building here at Bedrock Security, I'm here because I'm super excited about the problem that we're trying to solve. And I'm the back to basics guy. When I think about technology and problems, to me, what matters most is there a sufficiently large problem that a lot of people are struggling with that can be solved through technology, right? And I think about Bedrock Security, and I think about AI, and AI is a fundamental aspect of why I wanted to do this now, but it wasn't the only reason why we're building Bedrock Security. When you peel all of this back, the way I think about Bedrock and data, all technologies, security technologies and processes in the enterprise exist to protect data. But up until now, basically, they've been data basically blind, right? We've been shutting doors on data. We've been, locking down networks, perimeters, identities, and all of these technologies are unaware of data itself, even though their job is to protect those identities and those networks so that bad people don't get at our data. Right? Data is the thing that actually matters in the enterprise, right? And so, to me, what became evident is that we need to actually bring data to the center of enterprise security strategy, and it is ever more important now than ever before because of AI. Because number one, what kind of exposure vectors AI creates, how much regulatory bodies around the world care about this, about our data, about our privacy, and also because we can actually leverage AI to, in an autonomous fashion at a high scale, actually understand data and bring it to the center of enterprise security strategy. So all of these things overlap, and I actually am here to build Bedrock Security because we are building, I think for the first time in technology, a component that allows enterprises to actually control their entire data payload, all of their data assets, so they can use it more effectively.
And this is how many of customers that you deal with have data at the center of their security strategy? How many of them are thinking about the importance of, and you use the word autonomy or autonomous. I mean, the dependency, the interdependency in terms of access to data in near real time to actually create an autonomous outcome free of human touch is so dependent on not those silos and protection of data where you have trapped data that leads to trapped value creation, which ultimately is not the position you want in order to add value at the speed of need. So how many people actually think about the way you think about it?
So many people think about it and have thought about the problem of having data be at the center, but so far has not been achievable, right? There was not a system or technology that could cope with the volumes of data, right? We are dealing with customers who have exabytes of data that there was no system historically that was able to scale to that. There were systems that could store it, that would capture it and write it down and retrieve it. But there were no systems that could actually go through that data and understand what it is, understand the risk, understand the access, understand the blast radius. And people have thought about this problem, but it was just unattainable, right? And we are now at this sort of cusp where the technology for both scale and understanding of data in an autonomous fashion exists. And that's what we're bringing to bear to solve this problem.
Bruno, I mean, at the heart of what you're doing is this metadata lake, and this is really, I think, one of the most interesting and ingenious inventions out there, right? The ability for you actually bring that data together, you assess that data, and then you actually figure out what that footprint is and what that risk in terms of the attack surface is by doing it by design. Talk about how you thought through about creating this thing, the metadata lake, and how you're able to use that to actually extract the information from the graph APIs to actually get to the result that you're going to. Because it had been thought about, people had kind of hypothesized about it, but no one had put it together like this.
Yeah. So, I've been in the data space my entire career. All I've done in my entire career has been basically data management technologies and cybersecurity, from Sumo to web methods to others. And so what became clear to me is, and I'm going to get a little philosophical here, is that there is a component missing in the data supply chain, the component that is basically the source of truth. You can think of it as CMDB for data. CMDB might not be like a good word, but it's effectively a data asset repository that data catalogs have attempted to solve this problem. Master data management vendors have attempted to solve these problems, but they went narrow and deep. They were too manual. How we're thinking about this is, and what the metadata lake is essentially a graph-powered backend that stores all of this data context. But the philosophy of it is that it is broad first. So see the forest for the trees. Examine everything. Don't necessarily have to go too deep on all of the data assets, but find them all, figure out what they are, figure out who has access, and then in sort of where you have gold mines, go deep. And essentially what we do is we build this massive graph of data where essentially the edges in this graph represent every data asset and every principal that may access that data, and all of the paths between those, including things like properties and context, blast radius, locations, labels, all of the stuff that decorates those edges, so that we know what these things are, right? And so what we want to deliver with the metadata lake is we want to deliver the enterprise's data asset source of truth, the component that's missing, in the data supply chain, that lives between data producers and data consumers, the thing that always have the full view of what you own, what it is, how sensitive it is, how it's being used, so that you can effectively deploy it for highest ROI on your data, because that's the fuel, and also to do it securely.
And that's, you don't read the data, you scan the data, right? That's the difference here, right? Because most people try to read the data, and that's what slows them down.
Correct. Reading data that's growing at an exponential rate, that's already super large, in tens of hundreds of petabytes of data. Basically, it's an economically infeasible problem, right? If you try to just list all the objects in large S3 buckets like that, it'll break the bank, right? So we have some very unique techniques, entirely serverless architecture that the customers don't deploy anything. We just, it's all about Terraform template and the CloudFormation templates. You turn it on, and it basically peers inside of these data stores. It all happens in a customer account. No data ever flows out. It's all happening sort of, where the data is. And we don't read the entire data. It would be that's not a proposition that
and you're
works
doing
on an
dynamic
enterprise.
classification and lineage at the same time.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
That's
We're
important. That's a very important piece here. So
that's right. It's classification. That's sort of table stakes. What is it? Are they sensitive records, PI, PHI? Then we build a data taxonomy. We're clustering data set using AI to understand what are the topics that are being covered. What's the business context? Are these financial documents, offer letters? What are they? And so we build a taxonomy, and then we do lineage. We fingerprint everything in order to determine are there data flows that are happening through the enterprise infrastructure so that we can trace data sets as they move around.
So this week you're on a customer tour, meeting with prospects and existing customers, and I suspect you're meeting with folks in IT, folks in the security teams, software development teams, obviously business teams, to understand contextually the importance of data and how to use it. And all of these folks, I suspect, based on my experience, are struggling with silos within their departments and all the interdependencies they have with different lines of business in the enterprise. How does Bedrock Security approach helping these stakeholders representing their own interests and departmental KPIs break down these barriers so that you could actually have optimal flow in terms of value creation for their stakeholders?
Yeah, what used to be a single departmental concern, the data and data infrastructure, is no longer it, right? Data today is a cross-functional concern. Lines of business own the requirements, drive creation of systems. Technologists like CTOs, data engineering teams build the infrastructure, run the infrastructure. Governance teams and security teams are the ones who are tasked with protecting the data, ensuring that it's being used effectively, and nobody owns the full stack. So a security team can't really deploy a technology into the production infrastructure without the CTO's organization and things like that, right? And so we think about data as a cross-functional concern. I'll give you an example. A CTO might ask a question of, in this case, metadata lake. Hey, show me all large data sets that are infrequently accessed so that I can tier them and reduce cost. A CISO or a governance person may ask a very similar question. Show me all the large data sets that have large number of sensitive records that are infrequently accessed so I can implement least privilege, right? 90% overlap between these questions, right? Silos exist that disable these people using the same source of truth to answer these questions, right? So what we are doing here is we are breaking down these functional barriers and silos by building a metadata lake that serves all of these constituencies from a single place so that they get consistent answers and operate on the same source of truth.
Who's your executive sponsor typically in an enterprise? Is it a CISO? Is it
typically right now it's a CISO, because we are focused right now on a couple of use cases, which is DSPM, data security posture management, which is essentially the foundational concern. Discover the data, classify the data, and then reduce risk, right? So that's the first use case. And the second use case is responsible AI. So, what we just ran a survey just a couple of weeks ago with 500 plus IT and CTO professionals in the enterprises. And what we found is that, 60% of the security team's roles are changing to encompass responsible AI. So even in the responsible AI use case, we end up talking to a lot of CISOs and governance teams, but also we end up obviously bleeding into data engineering and CTO's organization as well, right? But typically these days, it's a security team, CISO.
Actually, let's go back to your survey. Oh, sorry, Vala, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, let's go back to your survey. And in that survey, you also said 60% of those security roles have been redefined to include AI responsibilities. How do leaders ensure that responsible AI adoption is going to move quickly enough? Or in some cases, why don't we just deploy an autonomous agent?
So how people ensure that it gets deployed quickly enough? Well, they're not necessarily effectively doing that today, right? That's why. Sure. So I think, I've heard some statistics, and that majority of AI initiatives that were started sort of right after the emergence of GPTs, everybody raced to build a bunch of AI capabilities. Majority of those capabilities got halted before production. Why? Because somebody asked a question, Do we know what this is going to expose? Do we know which data was used for this? Do we know that there's not going to be model bias and things like that? And essentially, how do you ensure that you can go fast? You slow down a little bit first, right?
Yeah.
You ensure that the data that's flowing into AI system is vetted, that you know what's in it, that you know that it's not going to cause bias or policy issues and things like that. And that's how you move fast, right? The fastest race cars on a track are fastest because they have really good brakes. They can go really fast up until a turn, brake, and then accelerate really fast, right? Without good brakes, you can't really go fast.
That's a great analogy. John Wooden, UCLA basketball coach, would tell his players, go fast, but don't hurry. But you do have these regulations around AI and data privacy evolving constantly.
Yeah.
Is that your advice in terms of how companies can stay both compliant and innovative? Go fast, but be methodical and recognize, you mentioned, biases, hallucinations, toxicity, and all the governance that's required. How do you best serve your clients in order to make sure that they still continue to innovate, but do it in a responsible, ethical manner?
Yep. Back to basics. Build your house on a bedrock. And that's a little bit of a tongue-in-cheek here, right?
Yeah.
But that's why we call this company Bedrock, right? I keep going back to, foundationally, what you need to do is figure out what you have, figure out where it is, figure out what's sensitive, figure out who has and what has access to it, how it's being used. And once you have that in a consistent way, continuously up to date, that's on that foundation you build, compliance, auditing, security, governance, everything, right? And so our advice to our customers is not go and build a vertical stack all the way to the top, right? Start at the low level, make sure you know what you own, where it is, how you run it, and then expand from there, right? So we go and we advise our customers to first embed this. I'll give you an example. A lot of people are deploying co-pilots, right? Like Glean or Google Agent Spaces or Microsoft 365 Copilot. And a lot of enterprises are really concerned what's going to happen when we turn on those co-pilots, right? We're not in the DLP space anymore. We're in the, I would call it ILP space, information leakage protection, not data leakage protection. And the reason why I say that is because it's not a document that's going to leak. It's going to be the one sentence from that document that the co-pilot is going to find and answer a question like, what's my CEO's salary, right? That's a different mode of operating. So, what we're advising our customers and what we're doing with a lot of our customers is like, deploy Bedrock first, let it understand the lay of the land. What's the exposure blast rate that you're gonna face if you turn this on, and then methodically go forward and roll out these technologies, right? So again, back to basics, back to the ground level. Ensure you know what you have, and only then move. That's how you can move fast and safely with regulators.
How much of your staff is dedicated to just keep up with the innovation velocity in the AI space? And I ask because, my interest lies in agentic AI, and, you have Google talking A2A protocol 1 or 2 weeks ago. You got Anthropic's MPC protocol, and it looks like they both may exist in order to create the most robust. But you've got all these standards that are being defined, or potential standards that are being defined, somewhat orthogonal to each other in some cases. And it just, when you think about the threat vector, when you think about what the blue teams have to discover based on the red team's findings of all these new protocols that are hot off the press, and they're scaling, and the speed and scale when these are in autonomous mode is unlike any human input-output we've experienced. It just seems like AI and security teams are massively, I don't want to say under pressure, but it's blue ocean, and they're swimming trying to identify sharks. And there's red in the water everywhere.
A lot of sharks.
I don't know how much sleep you get, Bruno, but it's
yeah.
I
have my anxiety dreams, but I'll tell you, so how much of my staff is dedicated to this? Like half the company's working on this, right? We are sort of all in on AI. We are sort of, our foundation is built on AI. And, you bring up these things, the new models, right? So, we just recently released a co-pilot on top of our metadata lake, so that the diverse teams who want answers from their data can have an English language conversation with their
Awesome.
metadata lake.
Awesome.
To sort of basically be able to ask these questions.
Very
Second, we are in the throes of model context protocol. We're going to be a model context protocol server so that agents can reach into the metadata lake and automate workflows, do data ops in an automated fashion, right? We are down a path on building our own agents that are use case specific, that will basically operate on top of the metadata lake, use the protocols under the hood, and then ultimately apply remediations in an automated fashion to sort of augment staff to avoid delays and things like that. And we were just in a conversation with an MIT researchers on agentic registry, right? The ecosystem is evolving so quickly, so that I think what's going to happen here shortly is we're going to have an entirely new paradigm of how software components communicate, talk to each other, collaborate, coordinate, all of that stuff. And we are, that's why half of my staff at least is like spending time on making sure that we're ready for it, that we're building this automation, because we do think that metadata lake will be a critical component of this new future stack, of this future work.
Wow. No, it's huge. And we see a self-directed, autonomous, regenerative world headed. This is really where we see that future. I mean, it's actually happening. Real quick, get a minute. Tell us about your founder, Pranav. How'd you meet?
Pranava and I met through Greylock. Greylock, my partner is Ashim Chandna, my lead investor.
Ashim's everywhere. So
he's everywhere. He's our lead
shout
investor
out
in
to
Bedrock. He's a mentor and a friend, and so we met through him. Pranava and I spent time collaborating, and he was sitting there thinking about technologies. He's an amazing technologist.
He was working at a rival company. I think it was at Rubrik at the time. So
he was at Rubrik, that's right. And then Ganesh, he is our third co-founder. The two of them were actually at rival companies between Rubrik and Cohesity. Both of them sort of like, they fought the war at those two companies, kind of reverse engineering each other's technologies and building out sort of next bigger and better scale technologies. And, I am sort of at the receiving end of these two amazing technologists who are like able to build things like you've never seen before. And I'm sitting here sort of thinking through strategy, looking at markets, looking at gaps. I'm a product guy fundamentally. I used to be an engineer. I can play one on TV right now, but it's the two of them are the geniuses of the company who are building the technologies that are going to become.
We'll just let get Sanjay Punin to invest. So since he's since it's a small world out here.
That's right.
Bruno Kurtic, CEO, co-founder of Bedrock Security, previously co-founder of Sumo Logic, here telling us between the intersection of AI security and, of course, the foundational piece of this new world, the metadata lake. So thank you so much for being here.
You're doing great work. Congrats.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Happy Friday. Wow. We've gone deep on the technical side. Maybe we'll actually invert and start talking about something else. Going on leadership.
Or not.
Dr.
I was excited to hear that. That was awesome.
Look at the yin yang. We're going to play this game.
That was,
that was awesome.
For nerds like me, that was cool.
Dude, I was super excited.
Dr. Shanda, by the way, I say that affectionately. Nerds rule the world. Dr. Shanda Gore, founder of Maze Associates, and author of a best-selling book that just came out in March of this year, PinLeader Path: Identify, Engage, and Develop Effective Human and AI Leadership for Your Organizational Culture. PinLeader Path offers practical strategies to harness the strengths of both human leaders and AI systems, ensuring your organization thrives in a fast-evolving world. Dr. Gore's #1 best-selling author and highly sought-after keynote speaker, recognized leadership expert, known for driving impactful change. Her expertise in guiding leaders and organizations towards success has earned Dr. Gore a reputation for excellence and results with more than, listen to this, 22,000, and the number keeps growing, individuals benefiting from her training workshops. Dr. Gore is founder and president of Maze Associates, a full-service leadership development, strategic planning, and cultural building consultancy firm. Shanda is a host of another amazing podcast that has far greater reach than DisrupTV, PinLeader podcast, available in, listen to this, 175 countries. I think we're Canada, Mexico, and US. I don't know if you've left the continent.
That's why we became international.
So we can learn a lot from Dr. Gore. Welcome, Shanda, to DisrupTV.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. And when I listen to that, I think, wow, there is a lot done there, but there's so much more to do. There's so much more to do.
We had to cut your bio short because we only have an hour, so I apologize. You've done a lot, a lot. I didn't even list all the awards, all the leadership, impact, cultural. There was 2 pages of awards, and I'm like, people know you're awesome. So sorry, I had to leave that out.
Thank you. I
Let's
appreciate
start
it.
with awesomeness. I mean, what inspired you to write this PinLeader path? But more importantly, what's the pin metaphor? Share a little bit about what that means.
Well, it's now, mind you, it's 20 years in the making. So I started with the concept back in 2005, and I was actually in a doctoral program, and I was working with a number of clients that were out there, leaders, CEOs, presidents, and I was looking for a commonality of thread of those are the most effective. And those that were most effective really stayed sharp in their areas. When I say sharp, I'm talking about experience and education and whatever what the trends were, which again, we just saw someone who was very sharp in their area. And then they also had a plan. Now, when I say a plan, I'm talking about a plan. They'd written it out and they were able to pivot when challenges came. So if there was an economic downturn or if there's, an acquisition or a merger, they were able to pivot successfully and keep a number of individuals who reported to them or in their systems or in their organizations on board to move forward through the change. And then the last one was the strength of character. There is something very said about the power of the strength of character. And there's a couple ways to lead. You can lead by fear, or you can actually lead to motivate others. And so those that were the most effective, those that were the most sustainable are those that actually led through strength of character. You had trust in that leader. And so you were able and more likely to stay with that leader. And if a change was happening, to accept the change because the leader was successful in communicating with you. So that pin, coming down to that pin, that sharp. And again, I thought, well, wait a minute, that's a perfect, metaphor of how we do that. And then holding a fabric of an organization together. And that many of that is the different cultures that are happening within an organization.
That's awesome. That's cool. Now, when I look at the title, I actually can visualize the powerful meaning behind it. And, speaking of staying sharp and in a ever evolving world that seems to challenge our dominant logic, who would have thought when you were starting your journey with the book 20 years ago that we would be talking about autonomous businesses, self-driving businesses, talking about intelligent software almost serving as our colleagues, where they're trusted operators, where we can delegate tasks to them being machines and software, and with some degree of confidence and trust. So your book talks about this notion of human and AI centered leadership. Can you talk a little bit about what you mean by human and AI centered? What makes it centristic in terms of how we approach this hybrid future of work, which we're no longer talking about location hybrid. We're talking about people and machines coexisting and delivering value to their stakeholders.
Well, I'm going to tell you. So I get excited. I'm going to tell you right now. I get excited about it. And I know I have a number of clients around the world. We have clients all over that a couple of things that come up. They talk about fear, replacement of a workforce, replacement of their roles. And I was listening to someone who actually was in Salesforce, and they were talking about we may be in the last generation of having an all-human team. And I was at the last part of writing this book, and I said, I not only do I believe that we're at that last generation of having an all-human team, but we also are at the last 1 to 2 generations of having potentially a human boss. And I say that because the way it's evolving it's so fast. I've talked to so many leaders. I was just on a panel with a number of leaders in manufacturing and different areas, service industries and insurance agent. We were all in the presidents. We were all sitting on this panel. And I was talking about the human element, this human centric part, as well as combined with this AI component. And I said, I got to bring it back to culture, because even though right now we're at a time where AI is making an impact, and individuals who are running major companies. They may not even admit who they are, but they're out there and they're saying, you know what, I'm not sure what to do with AI. I don't know what's going to happen next. And so there's still this human element that they're still focused on, which they should be, because at the end of the day, you still need humans to perform tasks. And this AI leader that's coming along, there are humans that are asking AI to perform these more sophisticated tasks. Write my strategic plan for my organization.
Yeah.
If you'd asked me 5 years ago, but that's what they're doing. And then I'm also advising them, but you have to treat it just like a new team member comes on board. You're not going to hand over to a new team member, write my strategic plan. At least you shouldn't.
Right.
Because they don't know your organization. And so what I'm encouraging my CEOs and presidents that we work with is to get to know AI, to start to build a relationship with the AI. And because of hallucinations and that sort of, I'm educating them about it. They need to do it like they're a reporter, which means go out, get 3 sources, check to see what AI is telling you is the truth. And this is the next step that they're not used to. They're like, well, I wouldn't do this with a team member. I said, but if you give that more and more responsibility, you're going to want to check its work. And it's really critically important. So the human side, they call them the soft skills, they're still critically important. Relationship building, how to have a conversation with someone. All of those are still very much needed. But with AI, letting it do your research and then checking the work is so critically important. And I would say that's the biggest out of all the hundreds that I've talked to about AI specifically. That's a number one piece that we talk about.
I love your advice in terms of us business leaders, like journalists, reporters, trust but verify. And check. And I have to tell you, in my experience in the last, let's say 3 years with certainly generative and agentic AI, at first I viewed them as interns. I'm like, I had interns when I was managing teams, and I love these graduate students who are critical thinkers and hungry, and they would work and they wanted to please you. And, they always went above and beyond. And now I see a shift from like interns to trusted operators. I mean, the reasoning logic has gotten so much better. The trust layer is continuously improving. I mean, the worst AI we use is the AI we use today. It just keeps getting better and better and better, unlike anything else I've experienced in 30 years of tech. So I don't view them as much as interns anymore. At least some of the tools that I use day to day, I'm starting to think of them like trusted operators. And that evolution is just phenomenal. And I can give you examples of it at my company, but I know Ray has a bunch of questions he wants to ask. So anyway, the journalist feedback and reporter feedback is great. I 100% agree. Go ahead, Ray.
So Shanda, when you think about what advice you would give to students or mentees as they get into leadership roles, I noticed your picture with Caitlin there, your Ascend mentee at graduation. Tell us what you would tell her, like when you talk to her, tell her what kind of advice, like what skills should she be picking up? How should she be working with AI? You're right. I mean, AI could be your boss in the future, and you can't just take them out to dinner or, go out and get drinks and then, schmooze them. It's gonna be different. Like, so what do you tell the mentees? So, and all the graduating kids that are coming out of college, like, in the next few weeks.
Oh, so yes, Caitlin, I love Caitlin. And
that's a student athlete program you guys have at the university, right? So
yes, I get tapped for a number of roles. I sit on dissertation committees, and then I also come back and I speak to students. I went to my alma mater, Bowling Green, and I spoke to them, and all of the students are looking and they're asking the same questions, Caitlin included. Is that is there a job going to be there for me when I get out? Mm-hmm. And they're worried, my graphic design students that I interact with, am I going to get replaced or will there really be a job? So what I'm telling students right now, I said, first and foremost, you need to become familiar with AI. And not just one ChatGPT, but across a number of the different opportunities. I'm having conversation with Alexa, having conversation with Siri, interacting in a way. And I'm really advising them, do not go with the free versions. Go and get a subscription and not the $200 one, but get a subscription and start to build the relationship so that it can have build folders within it. And if you're doing it online, and then having it create notes for you. And I said, I want the students to first of all, critical thinking. So they are asking the right critical questions to get to the answer. And that component of my faculty friends that are out there too, some of that's missing right now. Some of it's just digesting what's coming in and not questioning what you're seeing. And maybe some people want to see that and they want that to happen. But I'm saying for the most effective leaders, the most successful ones are asking critical questions, going down the rabbit holes and pushing. Now I'm going to say this. I do not believe AI. I call it more of a reluctant leader and an adolescent. It will tell you what you want to hear to get what it wants as well. And what it wants to do is it wants to please you. It's always checking. Did I give you the right answer? Is this what you wanted? Please help me understand so I can give feedback. And so it's just like a teenager wanting the keys to the car. You're fantastic, Dad. Here's, or mom, or, responsible. And so if you ask it, I asked it the other day, I checked, I'm like, what do you think of me? You're fantastic, Dr. Gore. I'm like, you don't know me. And so I want to make sure the students are thinking, one, they're using it when they go into a job interview, that they've done their research on that company. I don't want them empty-handed, and I will help them get research about that company. They should be checking 3 sources on it before they go in, so they're not caught off guard. But understand that it will hallucinate, that it does lie in the hallucination and will fill in gaps. And so do not totally turn your resume over to it and say, go put my resume together. That's not the way you want to go. You want to make sure that, generate from content, give me the best resume that get me hired in this particular field, but then you need to really go in and hone in. And I have said this to a number of clients, and I'll say this here. If anything can take away from what I'm saying today is please make sure that if you're using the Copilot, if you're using any of these extra resources with AI that are helping you write, you are still legally responsible for whatever the content that comes out. And that means if it's got exclamation marks on it and capital letters, which we interpret to be shouting, AI is not even distinguishing the difference between that. I had to educate it to say, stop using exclamation marks, and it started to argue with me a little bit. They're like, well, this is what I do. Does this make you unhappy? I'm like, it does. Because you're not.
Did you reply in all caps just to see what would happen?
It did listen right away.
Yeah.
And it did stop using exclamation marks. And that was about 1.5 years ago. So I was like, okay, you got the message, because it's not supposed to be emotional. So in one way, I'm telling students, sure, there might be some roles that are more probably would be more replaceable, as you could say, but there's always going to be that human intellect that's going to be needed. I say, don't leave it up to forecasting. I do tell my companies and for students coming out, as you may see an AI policy when you go into a workplace, be prepared for it. Don't be in shock from it, but either get it and get it in place. And then if you come into a workplace, be ready and be able to talk the language, because you're probably going to get hired before somebody who doesn't.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I tell my oldest is graduating next month from university, and thankfully she has a full-time job when she graduates. And my middle daughter is a freshman at university, and my son's in high school, freshman, 14. I'm certain all 3. It already happened with my oldest daughter because she was entering a workforce for doing technology work, that they will ask you during the interview process, most likely, show us the AI tools that are your favorites. Show us a project that you delivered using AI, and what did you like about it, what didn't you like? And I don't think in my 30 years in tech I ever thought about advising a friend or a child to get ready for cloud computing, get ready for Internet of Things, get ready for blockchain or social networks or quantum computing. Or it's the first time I actually think this is a technology where, regardless of the role that you're applying for, whether it's technology or non-tech, the organizing, the company, the hiring manager will want to know if you're proficient in this technology.
Oh, yeah.
And so I think it's electricity for the 21st century is my point of view. You had mentioned next generation potentially having bosses that are software, intelligent software. What other trends are you seeing in the horizon? Maybe 2, 5, 10 years, or whatever horizon that you're most interested you in terms of leadership and culture when you talk about this hybrid work environment?
Well, I know what trainings and workshops that we do, and we get involved, especially when I do a lot of executive coaching. And I have leaders that in the past have said, whoa, I'm not sure if I'm feeling comfortable enough with that to talk about it or to actually do anything about it. And then I had other leaders who have gone the other way, which is interesting about cybersecurity. They're just trying to get their employees to start using it. So it has become a requirement that everybody use it. But if you don't have policy and you don't have cybersecurity, it's almost like putting the cart before the horse. They're running along. So you've got these extremes that are going. And I think that in the next couple of years, you'll see more convergence where there'll be at least a leveling out between those that are afraid and won't use it at all. Like, we're not going to have it in here, period. And to those that are extremely, like, they're out there, they're putting all their data out there and they're telling everybody, even to the custodial staff, you have to use it. This custodial staff is asking, well, how do I use it? But they're not giving them guidance. They just want you to use it. So I think you'll find a convergence and an average leveraging out. This reminds me back when the internet was coming out, World Wide Web. I was in a department. I was working actually on my master's program. And I remember there was a gentleman who was the chair of the department, and he was writing this big called the whole net, wild world net. And by the time it came out, it was already, obsolete. I mean, I'm just going to tell you, anybody who's trying to tell you, oh, I can forecast 5 years and this is what's going to happen.
Yeah, right.
I would say, please, it's like saying, I don't have any biases. Well, yeah, you do.
Yeah, about 150 of them. Yeah.
Yeah, but you may not be aware. And I think it's important for us to be self-aware. And that's one thing in the book I talk about, the 4 intelligences to make sure that to be an effective leader, your emotional intelligence is still going to be a number 1 player. Your intrapersonal, which means a self-reflection of like what's going on with you, what triggers you. The third one at interpersonal, how you build relationships with not only AI, but also with humans. And that last one will be artificial intelligence. And I think it's really going to be critically important for leaders. Get out there, learn more about it. Even if you don't want other people to know that you're learning about it, and you want to come out and be that or surround yourself with people who know. I mean, you can't be the expert to everything. And this is not something that people are going to be able to micromanage. And that's going to be hard for some leaders who like to have their hands in every single, all the time. And you're a good, effective leaders they've got good teams, good other pin leaders on their teams that help them hold the fabric of the organization together. And I would say organizations they've really come on board and really utilize AI. They're going to be successful if they're doing it.
For sure.
So what are some key components in this pin leader path? Because scanning through it, I think there's a little bit about the leadership types, a little bit of efficiency, about the culture, and then AI. Where do you see taking that? So sorry. Probably more resources.
Well, I think really there's different leadership types and there's different levels and seasons of people who move in to being a strong pin leader. And this goes for anyone. I was once there. I was a pin follower, for example. That's one of the profiles I had. So I aspired to be a pin leader, and I looked at others that were actually falling into this category, which I did not know at the time, that had all these attributes. I looked very carefully at leaders who could hold their emotional intelligence together and could lead, especially in times of challenges, and the calm ones with the steady communication that made sure everybody knew why they were working, how they were working, and what part they played in meeting the goals. I mean, those were the strongest. And then there's others that work just autonomously, totally by themselves, that necessarily didn't have a team, but you still counted on them. And you can probably think of people like you've worked with that they're like, they may be off in their own office, working away. You need them. They may not have a team working for them, but they're the sole proprietor of whatever they're doing, but they're critically important to the process. And so I don't want to leave them out because they are critical to any PinLeader that's out there. And then of course, having peers. I'm big on, from a leadership standpoint, we cannot function in a silo. At least you shouldn't want to. And having these conversations, the fact that you both are hosting and bringing in different elements is fantastic. And that's what you want when you're building teams and leaders. And that's what I'm trying to encourage. AI is part of that now. And eventually, if you can get your mind wrapped around the fact that it can go into this leadership position, it's going to be hard for some. But I can see the future where, relying on AI to say, go, let it go, do this, and then direct the team on what the next steps are. I'm telling you.
I'm waiting for your first AI as a client.
Yeah. Oh, that'll happen. It's stunning. So I've been with my company 10 years. Every year, all 75,000 of us have to get, it's mandatory to get certified on presenting our company story, which is about a 25, 30 slide presentation. All of us, mandatory at every level, from executive vice presidents to interns. Well, not intern, but full-time single contributor.
We do that.
This year, what we're doing is we have a talent management agent. And what we're doing is we've been tasked to create a 5-minute video of us pitching this 30-slide deck. And there's a rubric that said, hey, make sure you talk about our core values, make sure you mention our top 2 products, make sure you mention a customer case study, make sure you talk about our one-on-one philanthropic model. So there are things that the agent is looking for, listening for, to make sure our story is complete. I have to tell you, the previous 9 years, my colleagues who tend to like me and would give me a pass, like, I didn't worry about this exercise because, well, one, I've known the company for many years, and two, I think if I messed up, they would give me a get out of jail card. Now I'm pitching to software who doesn't know me, doesn't care I'm the chief evangelist, just is listening to me, making sure I have a complete, optimistic, highly accurate story of my company's capabilities. It's man years of efficiency because we used to get together in rooms and pitch to each other, which there's some goodness to it. I know, maybe part of me misses that. But as far as accountability, as far as efficiency, as far as making sure you get very specific feedback as to what you missed in the story, because it's keeping accounting of all the dimensions that go into this 30-slide deck. I'm nervous. It's due in a month. So and I'm the chief evangelist. I'm the chief storyteller, and I'm nervous. But so when you say managers, like my 14-year-old is definitely going to get guided 10 years from now when he leaves grad school. And I'm an immigrant dad, so I'm assuming he's going to leave grad school. He's definitely going to have software guiding his how he earns a sponsor, how he earns a mentor, what conferences he should attend, what books he should read. PinLeader will be top of the list, So, and I think in some ways it'll do a far better job than the average managers today, because an average manager today, based on all the Pew stats and all of the SHRM stats, folks are disengaged. Folks aren't necessarily super motivated. Folks don't really have clarity in terms of their career journey and map. So I'm with you. I'm feeling it right now in my company. So it's great advice you're giving in terms of what it means to stay sharp and to bring some precision into how we lead organizations. We need to act like surgeons. We need to act like chefs, not cooks. We need to understand the ingredients and the taste of ingredients. So absence of a recipe, we know how to create something delicious. So I think your book is awesome, and it's no surprise it's a bestseller. Ray, I know you have a question. Sorry for that.
Oh, no, we got to close that. I want to thank you, Shanda, especially for being on the show and, of course, your mentorship and your leadership out there. I think it's a very important conversation. I think it's not the first conversation we'll be having about this. I think there'll be a lot of conversations as we.
22,000 people have been inspired by your work. So congratulations. And keep doing what you're doing.
Gore, founder of Maze Associates and the author of the PinLeader Path: Identify, Engage, and Develop Effective Human and AI Leadership for Your Organizational Culture. thanks so much for being here. You can get the book on Amazon. There's also a whole bunch of other places you can pick this up. But main point is check it out and figure out, where this future is headed, because it's happening now. So
thank you, Dr.
Thanks so
Gore.
much.
Thank you.
Wow, we've got the guests in the green room. What are we going to sell?
What?
What are you thinking?
Well, the importance of staying sharp, importance of understanding the changing nature of the landscape, cultural talent, process. I think, honestly, lastly, technology. I mean, the implications are so wide, so broad. And to have folks that can aspire to be successful entrepreneurs, like our first guest, and then folks that have committed their lives and their careers helping others stay relevant. And not just survive, but thrive and grow. At the end of the day, we want to be around folks that can help us reach our full potential. Ray, your thoughts about our extraordinary guests?
Well, we're definitely living in a world of exponential efficiency, and you are seeing that when we think about the impact of AI on data security. This is going to be a big shift in terms of how people do it by design as opposed to by happenstance.
Yeah.
I think what Bruno was explaining was his years of data and being in the data business along with his co-founders. They basically have realized that if you don't have the foundation set up correctly, it doesn't help. And I think this is one of those things where you're getting to the root cause, which is really at the data layer. And I think that was important. On the human side of things, in terms of leadership, I think you're right. I mean, at some point, an AI might be our manager. And I think what Shanda was saying was something really different. It's that these new generation of leaders are going to have to work very differently. There's a human and AI element and component that's important that we have to think about, especially how we engage and how we use that as it could be an advantage for some organizations. It could be a motivator. And I think there's a lot of opportunities here, especially when we're talking about this age of exponential efficiency that we're here. So I think there's a lot of interesting components for being an effective leader. And I think you'll find that in the book. Definitely something to read for managers that are looking about how to work with humans and AI, and in some cases, potential agents as managers. So
yeah, for sure. Pin leadership, love it. Next week, a couple of great CEOs.
Oh my.
One
Crazy.
returning favorite CEO of ours, Grant Halloran, CEO of Planful. He'll join us with Alex Yee, CEO and founder of GMI Cloud. And we have two extraordinary co-authors. We have Bob Goodson, who is employee number one, first employee at Yelp, CEO of Quid and co-author of Like, the button that changed the world.
Something like that.
And Martin Reeves, his co-author, who's the chairman of the BCG Henderson Institute, and again, co-author of Like, the button that changed the world. So two best-selling authors and two extraordinary CEOs. So it's episode 397. We're inching our way towards our 400th episode. If it's Friday, it's DisrupTV. Thank you for watching, and we look forward to seeing you next week. Bye, everyone. Happy Easter.
Happy Easter.